Hello, everyone who joining us online and on site. Shall we start for our second panel on climate smart technology for food security? We have with us now our panelists. The first one is Dr. Alam from Bangladesh, Principal Scientific Officer, Bangladesh Agricultural Research Institute. And the second one is Dr. Ohnmar from Myanmar, Country Manager, ASEAN Center for Biodiversity. And the next one, Mr. Tomi Haryadi from Indonesia, Director for Food, Land and Water Program. And lastly, Jacques-Chai Chomthongdi, Thailand, Director, Southeast Tilt Collective. Okay, so shall we start to discuss about climate smart technology for food and security? We can start with Khun Alam first.
Sorry.
You can add it.
Yes.
Sure.
I think because this morning we already discussed about the water security, and we see some differences and similarity between the country, the data-driven solution, the decision support system seem to be the key. So now in the afternoon, we're moving to food security, which I think equally important. And in order of the presentation, we'd like to start with Tomi to give kind of an overview about the issue first, and then we move to the case specific of Bangladesh and Myanmar before we moving on the big picture of the food transition as well, right, with Khun Jacques-Chai. So maybe let's start with Tomi, please.
Your pointer, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sawadee krap. My name is Tomi. Thank you so much for having me in this panel. So very much interesting. This morning we talk about water, and this afternoon we talk about food, which is both areas is interchangeable. Food will not, happen. It cannot be managed sustainably without water, and we're not going to have food without water, of course. So in this presentation, I'm going to give a bit of like Kun Patch mentioned, a bit of there you go.
Does it work?
Okay. Okay, good. Okay. Oh, it has to be from certain direction, yeah. So it cannot be from here. It has to be like that. So a bit of an overview about what is actually when we're talking about sustainable food system, what is that? So what very important at the beginning before we start about many aspects about sustainable food system is to get understanding what are we talking about. Sustainable food system, based on the name actually, is a food system. We're talking about food where it has to be continuously produced and continuously provide benefits. So that's why it has to deliver the food security in terms of food security and nutrition. When we talk about food security, it relates to quantity. So food security, it has to be secured. It has to be available from time to time in the same amount, in the same need that people have a demand on real life here. And then it has to be in a good quality. So if we have plenty of food without the good quality, without nutrition, I don't think it's something that we want. So we want to have availability, the amount of available food that we want it to be, and the quality that we also allows us to have a good health. Yeah. So that's why a sustainable food system is actually a way mankind, we are as a human, to enable availability of food from time to time in a good quality, so that to sustain our health. So this involved a process from planting, from starting to produce, processing here. Processing here means like when we start to grow the crops, when we initiate the process of all the circle of planting of the of crops that we consume from time to time, serving it, and here as they call it as a packaging, and serving it as for the needs of people, transporting it to ensure that everyone in all value chain, in all consumers level, get the product in a good way. So that's why. So food available in the amount and quality that we need. At the same time, also security in the process, in the packaging, and also transporting until the food itself received by the consumer. So how are we going to indicate the food is sustainable, what we call it as food sustainability? So in order to indicate that the food we already received at the stage of food sustainability, we need to see that the food is economically sustainable. So by means that all aspects, that the food has to be profitable when it's produced, it has to create a good financial incentive and mechanism in all value chain, but at the same time also giving fairness in terms of economic benefits to everyone involved in all actors in value chain. At the same time also, it has to be providing social and sustainability by means the benefit for society. It gives a fairness to marginalized group. It gives it will not differentiate whether the food is for a man or woman or any kind of groups, and also it is accessible for everyone. And most importantly, I think in the context of what we discuss now, food has to be environment sustainable by means that all the process in making that food ready on our table has to be environmentally guaranteed. Yeah. There is no process in developing the food that harm the environment. That's the way we indicate that the food that we have already sustainable. So what is, when we talk about, my colleagues later on will talk a lot about the cases, but the thing is what most important is when we talk about sustainable food system for people, climate and nature, there are aspects that are involved in the process, I think. So sustainable food system provide supports in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Productions of agricultural, particularly livestock, livestock and grazing and all those things, actually creating a lot of high GHG emissions, and therefore having a good mechanism in agricultural, effective agricultural mechanism that will reduce the amount of GHG emissions during the process. And also, sustainable food system need to be climate resilient. So we need to ensure that all the process that we have has to be proven, climate proven, by means like it's not gonna be changing by having the changing in the climate. For instance, when we manage the water resources, so for agriculture, and then the mechanism we do for irrigation, all the stuff has to be managed by taking into account that it has to be climate resilient. And also resource efficiency. This is important of making the sustainable food production, particularly in the production and at the early stage of the produce, that it has to be with limited resources. We're not gonna waste so many resources, and also carbon sequestration. We need to think about that having this agriculture system also having the role of carbon sink in the process, particularly in the production. So what I'm going to highlight a little bit later in is actually on locally produced food. Yeah. So there is a tendency of importing some commodities to a country or to area that actually getting the cost is higher. Probably the cost can be lower, but the thing is it's not going to be sustainable in the long term, because it has to be always highly dependent on production from the outside area. So, and then management of food loss and waste. So this is very much important. I think 1/3 of the food that they produce end up in the landfill, in the waste bin. Yeah. So this is very important for us to think about how we manage the food loss and waste. And last but not least, shifting diets. So consuming something in the large amount and the long term probably is not going to be sustainable. So we need to think about shifting diets. So moving the diets, moving the products, the commodities that we consume into something more promising in the future in terms of how we're going to cultivate it. So shifting diets from plant-based food or something that is less requiring emission in the production will be something that we need to think about in the future. So this is probably one slide about locally produced food and food regionalization in Indonesia. So what happened was in the country like Indonesia, which is very widespread from Sumatra to Papua, there was a tendency in the past that this is a sample in Papua in eastern part of Indonesia. If people consume rice as their staple food, it is more, they feel like there is a behavior, there is a perception that they are more modern, they are more well-educated, they are more civilized. While actually in Papua, the daily consumption is sagu. And rice is very much difficult to plant, to grow in Papua. But then because of there is a, ongoing stereotype from the western part of Indonesia that you have to eat rice to be called modernized people. Then people start to shift the food, the staple food they have to rice. And then this is really, in a way, it's bad because rice transport from western part of Indonesia to eastern part of Indonesia expensive. Imagine flying from Jakarta to Papua is 5 hours. Transporting rice from Jakarta or Java to Papua requires a lot of budget for transportation, and the cost actually triple, even 4 times more expensive. And this is what happened now. People still think that eating rice is something that they should do instead of sagu. So this food regionalization is a policy of government try to bring back the locally produced food, which is like sagu in Papua, as the staple food. So why we have to do that? Because I think the country themselves are actually having like a different kind of food in each region. So you cannot grow rice in Papua if it is because that's not the type of the soil that can cultivate, and also the typology of the land is not really flat like in Java. So that's why. And the other thing is most important, having this regionalization food, returning the food, the staple food into the region, giving more resilience in terms of food system. So if we have rice consumers in western part of Indonesia, and we have sagu consumers for staple food in Papua, then we have diversity. So this diversity gives a resilience when there is a issue with the lack of production of rice, for instance. Not everyone will suffer, and then the amount of crops that need to be fulfilled for rice become less because some other people still consume sagu. So that's the thing. It becomes more resilience. So I think this is some of the thing is very much important behind this food regionalization. So one of the things that we do for sustainable food system is actually then the staple, the commodities already available at the area. For instance, the sagu in Papua is already known, people already consume, easily found, and it's just like no matter of people don't eat it as a staple food that much anymore. So now we bring back that sagu is good. So it's same like rice. So not much different for that. So to increase the demand and supply for that. And the other thing is a big country like Indonesia, it is managed in the decentralized mode. So provinces have their own regulations in terms of managing the commodities, key commodities like rice. So this is the advantage. This is also, as I mentioned, reduce the burden of high logistic cost. So transporting rice from Java to Papua might give the price increase even 3 times to 4 times. But if they eat sagu, sagu is actually cheaper than rice. So the Papuan people still can eat sagu as their staple food. So there is also another one relevant for policies, actually existing village transfer fund program. So government now Indonesian government providing incentive for government own facilities to be built by subnational and sub-district level. So this village transfer fund can be utilized to ensure that when we do the food regionalization, for instance, that all the facilities like road, transportations, and all the infrastructure needed to to reutilize the crops at the subnational level will be available this fund will be available to be used for support the program. So that's some of the reason, and then that's one of the way we do the sustainable food system at the country level. Thank you.
Thank you so much for bringing up the content about managing sustainable food system. I think the government might want to note down some of your information as well. Dr. Phet, do you have anything to add up?
No, I think a really good example on thinking about sustainable food system is more connected to other sector and also really kind of how to build resilience in terms of the local community as well as the government policy as well. So I think now we can move on to see some other case study.
Next, we'll move on to Bangladesh. Mr. Alam, Principal Scientific Officer, Bangladesh Agricultural Research Institute, potential of organic agriculture to address climate change and ensure food security. Please. You can have a presentation.
Today's presentation.
Microphone.
Yeah. Impacts of climate change, climate smart agriculture adoption of food security. Actually, this is the reflection from climate vulnerable regions in Bangladesh. In presentation, I will start with little introductory words, then impacts of climate, this is globally, actually, and also case study, which is the main part of this presentation. Actually, we have to visit, we have to conduct a survey in two different regions. That is, one is at the coastal region, another one is hilly region. Particularly, they are very climate vulnerable people, and the result of that vulnerable regions to be presented here. And finally, climate smart agriculture practices, those are adopting in Bangladesh to address climate change, and also conclusion. Let me start with introduction. Actually, we know that climate change is a global issue. It is changing, but we are main responsible person. We are conducting different activities which creates the greenhouse gases. Just Tomi already said greenhouse gases impact on the climate change. But there are two things, that is temperature and rainfall. See here, just 1,000 years result here. It was quite similar until Industrial Revolution, that is 1800. Just last 100 or 150 years, it is dramatically changed. And last 100 years, this is very interesting change. This is reflected here. And 150 years, it changed about that the average temperature is about below, just around to the 14.2 degrees centigrade. But 100 years, it is more than 14.3 degree, and last 50 years it is more than 14.5 degree. It is gradually, not gradually, it is sharply increasing just in the year. Oh, sorry. This is the sea level, the different model is giving the result. Actually, in all model, it is gradually increasing in different cases. What's happened here? The climate, due to climate change, temperature is increasing, precipitation is also erratic, and sea level rise, which ultimately affects on human health, that is agriculture, forest, water resources, impacts on coastal region, and also biodiversity. Here, we are discussing about South and Southeast Asian countries, why it is more vulnerable. Actually, this is due to geographical as well as demographic position. Among these countries, Bangladesh ranks 7th position in all climate list of the countries that is most importantly affected by the climate in 2001 to 2018, over the last 20 years. Bangladesh ranks 7th position. But why? Due to its geographical position, It is flat, low-lying, and delta-exposed countries. Before going to show the map, I would like to show what's happened here. This is drought, cyclone, storm, flood, which is common phenomena in Bangladesh. Also, the last, just only 10 days ago, the flood, 53% already died due to flood. Here, the Bangladesh location, it is surrounded by India and also Myanmar, a little part, and the south, this is Bay of Bengal. And here, we have selected two locations, that is Khagrachari. It is under the hilly region of Bangladesh, adjacent to the Tripura and Manipur. And the second one, that is Podagali, just adjacent to the coastal area. Two different vulnerable climatic regions were chosen to conduct the study, just to assess the farmers' perception on climate change and how it is affecting the food security. The feature of the two research locations, already I mentioned, that is one is hilly region, another one is coastal. Average temperature is about 1.5 degree higher in Podagali than that of Khagrachari. Where rainfall is quite higher in Khagrachari, that is really hilly region, it is only 137, while it is in Podagali, that is coastal region, it is about 2,700 millimeter. And most of the peoples are here in Khagrachari, that is about 50%. They are ethnic community, while it is only 10% in Podagali. And profession in Khagrachari, it is mostly agriculture, that is jhum cultivation, conducted by hilly people, while it is in Podagali, that is coastal region, agriculture and fishing. Just this is the pictorial view of two regions. And how the research was conducted. The focus group discussion and semi-structured interview. Sample size was 64, mostly aged person. Actually, why we have selected the aged person? To give the actual idea how the climate has changed over the last 20 years. The data was collected demographic as well as socio-economic and also farmers' perception about climate change. This is conducting the focus group discussion in the hilly region, just one. And results, demographic, here most of the respondents were male, that is about 60%, while it was 40% in female. And age of the participants, most of the participants over 40 to 60 years, that is about 64%, while it is 21% above 61, and also below, that is 40, but not below 25, that was about 15%. And level of education, no more formal education was found in 32%, and most of the respondents were about 40%. They have only primary schooling, while 1/4 have the secondary education, and little bit also, that is about 5%, they have the secondary education. Is yearly income. Most of the respondents were poor, that is below 2 lakhs taka per yearly. Here I could mention that 120 Bangladeshi taka is equivalent to $1. And here found 3 to 4 lakhs, between 3 to 4 lakhs, that is 14%, just like here. Perceptions about climate. This questionnaire was arranged in such a way to know about their perception. They were asked their depth of the knowledge about climate change as well as greenhouse gases. It was found in hilly region. They have little knowledge about this terminology, while it was little bit higher in a coastal region. It might be due to their educational background. Here, rainfall variation over the 20 years in two regions, and also two seasons. That is one dry season, and another was in wet season. That is, most of the respondents perceived an increase in rainfall in wet season, while it was in higher in, that is a decrease in dry season. That is erratic of the rainfall. And overall rainfall decrease, that is conceived by 56.25% people. And similar observation was found in case of coastal region. In case of temperature, it was perceived that an increase of temperature in summer, winter, as well as in overall, that is over the year, and it was found in case of coastal region also. That was little bit, then little bit less, that is 68%, 75%. And what's their impression and result, natural hazards? They were asked about the natural hazards. In hill region, most people faces this problem, that is landslide. that was not actually common phenomenon in Bangladesh, but recently it has been intensified. And water scarcity, that is drought for agriculture, typical natural flood, drought, landslide, have been increased than that of 2 decades past. That was a reflection from the respondents. And in coastal region, they found sea level rise. It's gradually increasing, and they found that saline water intrusion in the cropping pattern, cropping land. And impacts on intensity of disease in every location, it was gradually increasing, but malaria, that is mosquito carrying disease, that is gradually increasing, and also livestock disease, that is variola, crop disease also increased. Actually, wheat rust is a very domestic disease in Bangladesh now. Wheat production is gradually decreasing for the reason of this disease. In Portugal, livestock is gradually decreasing because in saline water intrusion in the plainland, and they are suffering from the grassy and grass. And also fish, prawn, they are facing some problems due to disease. Impacts on agriculture and food security, total in as one sentence, it could be said that, yield production was increased over the 20 years, but they are facing their cultural practice, agricultural practice has been drastically changed, and it is pursued by 73%, and also said that climate change impact induced due to deforestation, Jhumkalung hill cutting in the hilly region, while in Portugal region, most of the respondents said that crop yield increased over the last 20 years, but livestock production is gradually decreasing. Impact on others, that is biodiversity is gradually increasing. Also, some people are changing their profession, but no change in the coastal regions. And adoption of climate agriculture practices, this is the main part of my presentation. And they said, the interesting is many people are using the climate smart agriculture, but they don't recognize that it is the climate smart. They don't know about this, because this might be due to their poor educational background. This is the climate smart, just conservation of agriculture, what are practicing in Bangladesh. See, soil management practice, conservation tillage, that is zero to, already Tomi mentioned that greenhouse gas methane or carbon sequestration. Here, if we use the conservation tillage, then carbon dioxide emission can be reduced 44% than that of conventional tillage.
Sorry, I have to interrupt a bit. We have to keep up with the time.
Okay, how long? Just
maybe 3 minutes more, please.
Just, okay, no problem. And here, zero tillage and minimum, it reduced 30%, and strip tillage, just not conventional tillage, strip tillage. And contour planting, it is practicing in the hilly region, just like a terrace, and it's also reduced the soil erosion. And here it is found that 94 liter per hectare per year fuel is saved, and also carbon dioxide emission is quite lesser than that of conventional method. And alternate wetting and drying is practicing in the rice field, which produces a lot of methane gas, and one of the main factors of the greenhouse emission. And also, we are using the rainwater harvesting in coastal area, and also that urea super granule applicator is used in application of urea fertilizer, which reduce the nitrous oxide emission. And vermicompost, rather than using chemical fertilizer, is practicing here. And also biochar is also using. We are also shifting the planting time by using crop management practicing. And sorghum, this is very popular method in practicing in the coastal region to cope with the salinity. Here also fish, this is the practice. Here fish are also cultivating, just like this. So pyramid, this is practicing in the lowlands. Those are underlocked of the water. Here it is practicing, and floating agriculture. Just Bashman or Chap Krishi. Eco-friendly practicing, also practicing in Bangladesh to instead of using the pesticide. We have already developed different resistant varieties to tolerant with the flood, to tolerant drought, and like this. Finally, I could conclude that climate change is not a new or indifferent concept. We have to cope with the climate smart technologies. Those are still underutilized. The farmers should be awareness and should be brought under the mainstream, integrated into regular activities. And if demonstrable climate smart technology practice should be exchanged and intensified, then of course it will be cope with in future. That's all. Thanks to all for patient sharing.
Thank you for sharing the hazards that Bangladesh have to face. This gives us a big picture and also forcing us to take action into climate change. We are moving to Myanmar. Ms. Dr. Ohnmar Khaing, Country Manager, ASEAN Center for Biodiversity, Climate Smart Agricultural Intervention for Food and Water Security in Myanmar. Please.
Thank you very much. I'm glad that my fellow Dr. Alan already mentioned some similarities of adoption, solutions. So it's very similar. Something is different because I could not able to have the pictures and photos, but I think our brother already mentioned, so it's very similar to me. So here I would like to mention overall situation across Myanmar, particularly related to the most vulnerable regions are in Myanmar. So let me give you the a little bit background of how we are rated as the climate situation. We are ranked as the second most vulnerable to extreme weather events. It means we are very much vulnerable to respond to the climate change impact. Not only to food security, for other issues, health sector, and as well as disaster preparedness plan, etc., etc. So we have now 54 million in the overall population, but this is coming from the very recent report of World Food Program that 15.2 million people already are in food insecure. Our great fellow from Indonesia, Tomi, already mentioned that how we have a pillars of food security. So it means food insecure, it's really entitled to the 4 pillars: accessibility, utilization of our food, and also availability, how much we could produce and how much we could utilize, and also how is the accessibility of the people to get the food. Is there any disruption to the logistic chain, supply chain, and also trade barriers and market value? So these all are linked or to the climate change impact to our country. So this is really, alarming message for us since, 2 decades ago already. We were shouting at climate change impact. How much we could respond systematically. How much our decision makers, policy makers can uptake from the ground voices. What is really happening at the ground, how the most vulnerable communities are really suffering from this climate change impact. So this is really, something that we could not able to raise up as a public awareness about this. How significant driver of economic migration for your young people now going into the neighboring countries. Remember that we are between of big countries, China and India, which has almost 1.4 billion. So, and also we are again having the neighbor with Thailand, our good neighbor, and also Bangladesh, and to somewhat Laos. So later on, I'm going to share that we have opportunities of food production, availability, access, market, but can we able to use these opportunities for securing our food, not only at local level, but to the regional level, ASEAN countries, and also to our big neighbors who are in need of the food. Because of climate change, plus human-made, disaster crisis, this all combined and double up to affect to our vulnerable groups. So here I would like to mention that how this, adverse effect of climate change happen to the food supply. So this is really go up to the affect to the food production. Particularly, we are the rice-eating country. So this during these 5 years already we have showing the reduction of. I could not able to show the data and figure here, but I can briefly tell you that the quantity of the food production, particularly rice production, pulses and beans, we could able to export to to our big neighbor, India. But somewhat, we have to purchase from India for some varieties. So this is a big success story for us. So at the same time, also our quality of the nutrition status of our people. You know, we are under malnutrition status. So under 5 years of our child are in need of, you know, one out of 5 are in need of the nutrition food as a value, as a schools and as a kindergartens. So, I mean, this is really show how is our nutrient availability under the utilization of one of the the pillars of the food security. Because we have increased temperature, heat waves, tropical cyclones, because of the high flood and heavy rainfall, quite often, and this year is the worst, because of, you know, we receive very heavy rainfall even in jungle, and also in border area with Thailand, and also Laos and in Bangladesh. So these areas are, you know, for example, are in ARD Delta, which is the Delta region that can produce over 65% of rice production over there, but already flooded. So we completely lost, some areas completely lost the yield of the crop, particularly rice, our staple food. But at the same time, what happened to our logistics chain? The law and policy does not ever to influence, does not ever to reflect to the real situation. Okay, why we people are in need of rights for the basic level of need or staple rights, then our policy is still encouraging to export rice to African countries or other countries. So it means that the policy makers are not really reflected to the ground level. So people are in need of the rights, need of food security, food, but while we are trying to export to other countries, you know, it's somewhat to reflect to the law and policy enforcement for the trade barriers as well. So climate change variety is really, you know, affecting to the country. A higher temperatures also coupled with our decrease in water availability in the region, that also include, you know, the high flood we cannot able to control, and also even cannot do the mitigation. The people ground in the villages have to cope up with our local adaptation mechanism. So this is still happening. So that's why we are, even though we have some solutions, we adopt that, but still limited situation to disseminate to other areas. So this is really happening. And then we can already see that the consequences of income is already disturbed, particularly for the people who are staying in the rural areas. Okay, let me come up with the challenges first. So well, I already told you that we have a solutions. I will come up later with the practical solutions. But the challenge is lack of extension services and technicians. When we, you know, let's say when we say about climate change, we really need to come up with infrastructure and technology like a climate smart solution, technology solution. But it's a lack of the extension services, and also technicians are not recognized, are not acknowledged from the decision maker, and it's really, you know, very overwhelmed with the situation. So this is also the first thing. And institutional constraints, institutional capacity, very insufficient level research and development skills on the climate smart agriculture, limited capacity, budget, human resources, and technologies adoption. These are really happening as a challenges. Of course, the communication, information system dissemination for our knowledge management mechanism, very important. And this is really lack of the communication mechanism among and all the multi-stakeholder levels are in country. It means not only from the government institutes, but to the civil society, and also with the local NGOs and our research at university level. We are not really linked up to use solutions we have to disseminate these solutions to our people, by the people. So, as I shared with you earlier, the law enforcement really matter. How to mitigate and adapt this climate change impact to country. There are opportunities. As I said, we are between two big neighbors. And also we are very friendly. Thailand, who is always accept our problems and issues, is, of course, climate change impact is really, the present matters as a regional. Okay, so how we trying to establish an effective climate information service, but still we could not able to have it effectively. Of course, we are using social media, particularly Facebook, to get the real climate change information for farmers, for people like normal people, and for women groups, and for livestock, for livestock raisers, and also the fishery setter. We could not able to have any official dissemination channel to have proper scientific data to translate into our knowledge level. And, this leverage the use of mobile technology and ICT. Our young people, we appreciate young people are very good in the creation of, this app. But our Wi-Fi, internet connection is really disturbed to use this kind of app to adopt this climate change technology into their level. So this is also limited situation. And we have like a farmer free school program, which are really good programming, having the integration system, water security, the food security, as well as with the climate resilient technologies, having the, the salt resistance, intrusion resistance, and also pests and disease control resistant varieties. But this is really important that we need to have a kind of guidelines and policy, support to able to implement at the ground level. So I think I would like to come up with the opportunity. We have an agricultural education system starting from the high school to the university level. But as I said, the limited situation of communication is happening among the institutional levels to improve our education informally and formally to disseminate this climate smart technology to the people. Okay, where are we now? We have come up with the solutions. We learn from Bangladesh, we learn from Thailand, we learn from India, we learn from Indonesia. We learn ourselves, then we adopt ourselves. So, okay, we have pretty much a kind of locally adaptable the techniques. Like a conservation agriculture, our brother, already shared with you. So we are pretty much somewhat we could able to use it, adopt in our dry zone areas, particularly for the, the sesame production, groundnut production, peas and pulses. Yeah. And also, we could able to establish climate smart villages, which is model for the highland area and for the dry zone area and for the coastal areas. But unfortunately, we could not able to expand from these model villages to other areas. We could not able to show our good things, our lessons, and best practices to other areas. So this is the solution we have, but we could not able to expand. So the small, it's included small livestock productions in the homesteads, school gardens, and also there's also integrated application of the nutritional status, diversification of the food, give us the vitamin A, B, C, D, E. Then it's for the sharing that how to grow this integrated farming system, which is really can build up to the climate resistant crops and farming in the future, starting from the schools, but could not able to continue right now. So, we use a kind of water harvesting facilities at the village level for the farming and also for the household, but our facilities are still very limited to get at the village level. Post-harvest technology, we have kind of, the solar dryer to use the fishes, prawns, and also sell it within the region, yeah. But at the same time, we need to also consider about the market demand. Okay, but at the same time, we also need to consider climate smart technology. Can you imagine that we are shortage of the electricity? Electricity outage is 8 hours cut a day. Then it is also fortunate at the same time we could able to use solar things, but solar facility is pretty much expensive. Yeah, in Myanmar. So, village level they could able to use some facilities, some cells, but cannot able to expand the big area. Of course, the UN support, NGO support, the research and development support. But right now, we are very much lack of the funding support from international and also regional. So that's the people need to adapt ourselves. We build ourselves, our resilience to respond, to adapt to our climate, climate change. That is the thing that we are really fighting for. So like our sister, Dr. Sunita also mentioned agroforestry practices. We have pretty much a range of series of mangrove forest restoration in the Delta region, and also some community forestry pilots are in the Kachin state, Shan state. Shin state is pretty much good that we can keep 30 years guarantee of the land, to give the people to grow the reforestation and also to sell in the market after we have got something. But of course, at the same time, law enforcement is happening. There is no law enforcement to cut down all the forests while we are growing the trees, ecosystem, agroforestry. So this is something that extreme level we are standing between them. So the adoption of organic farming practices, which is very good, very adaptable for the climate smart agriculture, climate change impact. So we are doing this. Because now the agrochemical fertilizers, very much expensive. It's triple skyrocket prices right now because we could not able to purchase from Thailand and China with the normal price. There are a lot of transportation charges because of fuel crisis, because of the transportation barriers, conflicts, crisis happening. We could not able to get these fertilizers into the farmer field. This make our farmers to use the organic farming practices automatically. That's why the challenges, and opportunities are really comparing and really happening. Something is challenging, something is very limited situation, but something we could able to adopt ourselves. We could able to stand ourselves right now. So some recommendations are making here. So we really need a locally climate financing mechanism. There is no budget in the union budget, local budget, regional budget, state budget. No even word of the mention about climate change. How comes? Okay? No even word of the food security. Particularly for the most vulnerable communities who are already suffer from the flood, heavy rain, heat waves, high temperature, the species losses, everything. We need to integrate climate risk. What are the climate risks? Into our food security policy. We always talk about availability, assets, utilization, but we never mention about climate risks.
We might have to keep up with the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
So also I would like to introduce climate justice. Okay, whenever we face with the climate impact, who are the most vulnerable groups at the ground level? How is the justice? How can we get the access of our agricultural inputs and the technologies to those ground level? So this is really justice we have to, consider in the future, right now. The communication, giving the public awareness, very important. We are still very limited situation of having the knowledge, awareness of this climate change impact. That's why I'm coming up with some recommendations. Also, AWD, as our brother already mentioned, and promotion of this climate smart technology, in an alternative way that we really need to also speed up for this. And also community-based savings groups. That is really like, revolution fund for the future. So community can regulate themselves to get the credits, from their revolving fund mechanism can use to be able to cope up with this climate impact, the issues in their farming level. Also, I would like to add more recommendations. This can be there for Myanmar and also for our regional wide use. So I think we have got some crop varieties, but we really need to improve, increase to use of these varieties practically at the ground level and to be able to go up to the market issue. I think it is very important that to build the science-based evidence on the economic, social, environmental impacts, climate smart agriculture technology to better inform future investments, particularly to the young people and also intergenerations among of our groups. And mainstreaming climate resilience in our, broader development of the agenda at the local and regionally. So this is my additional recommendations. Let me conclude my sharing with this, wisdom of Albert Einstein. Those who have the privilege to know, you have the right to have a duty to act. So this is the most important message I would like to end up with this, my presentation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Ohnmar. And I think it really emphasized the same point in Bangladesh and Myanmar. So these climate smart practices do exist, but I think it really need to mainstream and also need a lot more investment in terms of scale it up in terms of solution. Interestingly, the challenges that Myanmar facing almost force a lot of people to have to go organic because of the cost of the chemical and fertilizer. But I think we should recognize about the cost of practice industrial farming to the food system in general. And I think we like to end with Khun Jacques-Chai, who has worked quite a lot on this kind of food system and how we need to change or transit to the future food if we want to address the climate change.
Good afternoon. Sawadee krab. Well, first of all, I would like to express my deep appreciation for allowing or providing me the opportunity to be on with such a prestigious panelist. I'm probably the only one who is not the scientist or a technical expert on climate. I'm more from a civil society background. I'm actually, at the moment, the Southeast Asia director for a new initiative called Tilt Collective. So our mission is to build a global movement to achieve what we would like to call a sustainable and just food system. And that need to answer to key angle. One, the really issues of climate that we are discussed today. Second, health, and of course going to nutrition and food security that we are also discussing today as well. And then, inspired by, the ending of the previous presentation of those who know has the duty to act. So I would like to take these next 7 to 8 minutes, try to let you know as much as possible, or at least aware on certain information, and hope that, we can help and collectively, taking collective action together. Yeah. So when we talk about climate change, up until this point, of course, there are angles on the mitigation and adaptation. And adaptation is really important, and we hear from our previous two speakers, this is need to happen, because people are facing it. The impact of climate change is already happening. But it's not a static thing, it's a moving thing, because if temperature keeps increasing, the ability to adapt today might not or no longer answer to the ability to act in the next 10 years or 20 years. So mitigation is something that we also need to take into account. But up until this point, food mitigation doesn't seem to match that much. We are talking more about energies, fossil fuels and things like that in terms of mitigation. And we talk of food more of adaptation. But if you know that 1/3 of the greenhouse gas emission is from the food system, okay? 1/3. And even though, right at this moment, if we can turn on the light in this room and even the entire world from renewable source, clean energy, totally, right at this very moment. But if we don't do anything about our agriculture sector, our food system, by the end of the century, we're going to well surpass the 1.5 degree agreed by the Paris Agreement and hit 2 degrees. And that is a disaster. So we need to do something, right? But food sector is so wide. And then, I need to mention right at this moment is that not all the components of the food sectors, contribute equally to, climate change. You have smallholders, you have a more regenerative practice, you have a big operation, you have different sectors. But the very key point within the food sectors is livestock. And this is what I'm going to touch on. And Tomi touched on that a little bit earlier on in his presentation. I would like to focus on my next few minutes here. Actually, 2/3 of the whole greenhouse gas from the food system came from livestock supply chain. So that means account to at minimum 15% of the global greenhouse gas emission. Okay? And it's going to keep growing. It's not stopping, right? And it's not only linked to greenhouse gas, it's linked to many environmental angles, deforestation, air pollution, like Thailand, Myanmar know very well, like our neighbor in Laos and Cambodia as well, linked to certain production, to the meat production as well. Health angle, diseases, epidemics, and so on. And well, if you look again, dive down into the livestock sectors, surprisingly, almost 80% of the world agricultural land now devoted to the livestock, animal meat, animal protein supply chain. Only a little bit over 20% is used to grow plants that feed directly to human beings. But look at the effectiveness. Use 80% of the land, but produce only 18% of calorie supply globally. Those 23% of cropland provide 22% of the calorie intake. But when we talk about animal, normally we think about protein. We want to build muscle. We want to be strong. Well, they provide only less than 40% of the protein, provide globally. I move quickly, so this is the profile of livestock around the world. I will not stop here, but just to give you one graph here is that the proportion of the greenhouse gas release by the equal amount of protein produced. So if you look at the bottom, let's go to the second to bottom, like peas. Peas and beans compared to beef. So that's 100 times more. Or, if you compare to even, a pork is around 12 times to 14 times release, okay? So, and then, of course, if we're talking about opportunities, our colleagues here talking about, Southeast Asia, we have the role. Thailand, for example, we are small countries, but we are not small in terms of food exporter. Thailand is number 4 poultry exporter in the world, only after Brazil, the US, and the whole of the EU, okay? Vietnam is the 6th largest pork producers after China in Asia. Well, second after China in Asia, it's 6th largest in the world. And the whole of Southeast Asia altogether is the fastest growing importer of soybean meal for animal feed. So we are key players here. We are not a small one. And we are talking about, this is a little bit complicated, but just to give you that, when we talk about why it's need such a huge amount of resources or release greenhouse gas when we use animal as the intermediary to get our calorie and our protein. Because even in the best case scenario of poultry is 5-1. This means you need to grow plant, extract protein, feeding the chicken and get protein from chicken. You need to feed 5 and get 1. 10-1 in terms of pork and 33-1 in terms of beef, okay? And this is, thank you to my colleague here, this is the graphic from World Resource Institute. At the moment, the world population is around 7.9 billion, okay? We're going to grow up till 10 billion by 2050. Keep in mind, with these 7.9 billion, we have over 700 million who are malnourished. So we need to answer that question first. But then taking into, if we still receive or consume or produce the protein or food in the way that we are doing today, right now, we're hitting the wall. We're already hitting the wall already because we are going beyond our, what we call the planetary boundary. But if we keep doing so, we would need another 2 India. The whole of India, 2 times, to grow soybean, corn, to produce and grazing land. But bring it closer to home is equal to 12 Thailand, from north to south, doing nothing else, only contribute to animal supply chain. Well, so what are the solutions? of course, for those who are already vegan or vegetarian, there might not be much to say, but Teal Collective is not, advocating, well, we celebrate veganism, vegetarianism, but we want to also find a solution for the majority as well. So at the moment, the tendency, for example, in the EU, you have the small decline in terms of the consumption of meat, but then it's far away from what we needed in order to remain within the safe zone of 1.5 degrees C. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's not about climate change, which is critical, but it's all about health as well. So taking the Eat Lancet report, this is the calculation of meat consumption in different regions in the world. Okay? If you go over 100, that means you cross not only the planetary boundary, you're crossing what we would like to call, well, what they call the health boundary. Okay, so you're not doing harm to the planet only, you're doing harm to yourself. Okay, so meat is fine, well, for many people, but overconsumption of anything, of course, like starch, sugar, is not good for your health anyway. But meat also, saturated fat and all. If you do that, that's going to cause harm to your health. And in the Asia Pacific, we are well above twice of that level already. So reduction of that is not going to taking away your health, but enhancing your health. So going into a more technical part, this is the work of Asia Research and Engagement, a very good research team who produced strategic report linking climate to food, and this came out last year. Well, I'll go quickly to this. So this kind of like the profile of a meat production in Thailand. So you see poultry and pork is majority, seafood as well. The source of protein provide. And I will have the example of, for example, Indonesia as well. But this is more interesting. This is what I found on the one hand intriguing, on the one hand make me quite nervous, because it's take into account what they call the best case mitigation already. So what we need to do, we really need to improve on how we produce our food. That needs to happen. Okay, climate smart technologies, regenerative agriculture, agroforestry, this is compulsory. We cannot avoid that. But even taking that, so this is the best case scenario. Let's say that by 2030, around over 5 years from now, zero deforestation linked to any animal protein supply chain. So zero deforestation, no more animal forests or Southeast Asian forests being cut down for grassland or for animal feed production. We put an end to that. 100% clean energy within the whole process. So this is big. I'm not sure whether we can achieve that, but this is what we are based on. Then enteric fermentation emission. So this is a lot to do with methane, which is critical. If you don't know, every 5 calories that cattle consume, burp out 1 calorie. So that's 20% already into methane.
You might keep up with
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you for nudging me. Manure emission, feed, and food waste reduction. But even under this best case scenario, we will still be above the 1.5 degrees C. Okay? And that means for Thailand, if you see the bottom dark blue, that is the contribution by the protein production by small scale holders, really minimum, less than 10%. The big blue chunk, that's from the industrial meat. And that's where we need adjustment. We can increase even the small scale production, regenerative and sustainable production, but we need to deal with the large scale industrial production. We are not talking about reduction in protein. Protein needs to be secure, but we need to talk about the diversification of the source of that protein. So we need to have vegetal, plant-based protein in the mix, both conventional plant-based. Myanmar, capital of beans in the world. We import a lot of mung beans, a lot of beans into Thailand. And we need to help each other. There's a lot of resource of protein and fibers to come into the mix. So if you can see, it's not going into like non-meat. You have a huge amount of meat there, but we need to really diversify. Without this, under the best case scenario, we are not going to make it. In terms of Indonesia, I know that Indonesia, you have still issues with protein security, so this means a lot of a jump that needs to be made, but the government attempt in terms of like protein production has not been really successful, so maybe plant protein would be something well considered. China, the same case. So I would like to end by saying that it's important to deal and think about food, not only that how we're going to adapt, but as part of the solution as well. But when we talk about the solution, it's not something that we need to sacrifice or production less, but it's something that Asia would provide the answer. And one thing is to start with, and this is for both individual and national policy action, because individually, if you start to diversify your protein intake, it's going to be good for your health, and it's going to be good for the health at the macro level. I would end in terms of health, systemic research showing that globally, the spending, the health spending, if you consume according to the Eat Lancet guideline, we would make a saving of 1.6 trillion US dollars. 1.6 trillion US dollar is the most, by Boston Consultant, is the most effective investment in terms of climate mitigation, far ahead of everything else. Thank you.
Thank you. You actually raised one of the very controversial topic, and we're very controversial about, some people said that if they go vegan, they save the world. Or if they go vegetarian and don't eat meat at all, they can save the world. Is it true though?
Well, I wouldn't discourage that. So I think it's people's choice, okay? As I said, I personally, and I celebrate people who would go that direction. But what we needed is what I would like to call a plant-rich food system, okay? A plant-rich food system that ensure your health and then the survival of our planet. So that means readjust, rebalancing your intake between animal source protein and plant protein. And that is already wonderful.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from an audience?
Definitely action today for our overseas speakers. You have salad for our dinner tonight.
We have one question.
Hello, I'm Frank Kanshi, a news presenter and correspondent for Thai PBS World. I think one of the, of course, thank you for talking about, to point out all the, of course, all the solutions and imminent risks that climate change and food security should be taken off. I think one of the facades that we haven't talked about in this forum, I think it's government actions. So I just want to understand, of course, is it very difficult or actually efficient to push through your ideas, your findings about climate change, about food security towards your government? Is your government passive or proactive to deal with climate change when you talk to the government? For each of you, maybe very briefly, because we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah. Anyone want to answer that?
Can I?
Yeah. Sure.
Your government is very busy at the moment, I think.
I cannot give you the exact word because I have a very strong word, so I should not. Yes, it's very difficult right now. In the past, we did a lot of advocacy, policy reform. I think our brother Tomi also know that. We can do between 2012 and 2015, but because we deal with the parliamentary members, the committee members, so we did the policy brief. So this is quite easy, not quite easy, but effective channel we have built up with the parliamentary levels from the union, regional, and local level. So we can reach up these kind of things. But right now, the situation is not favorable situation that we could raise these issues, even though we did very effective or systematic findings from the level, the voices, the true stories, could not even to reach it to the decision makers.
Maybe
Thank you.
briefly about the other two countries, about Indonesia, has government been taking?
Yes, I think there's always the fight between economic incentive at the same time and on environmental preservation when it comes to food in everywhere, I think, including Indonesia. So I give an example. The current president, the current elected, coming president Prabowo, they have a program called it Food Estate. So food estate is actually creating as much as possible opportunities for growing food in area where we can plant it. So the program is nice because it actually can cater issues on food security at the country level. But the thing is, it has to be balanced with a proper environmental impact assessment, because in some cases, not all areas can be just cultivated with a certain kind of crops. Yeah, because for instance, in the peatland areas, there are certain of ways of we can conserve this area. So there are some issues with this in the country when they start to implement the food estates. So organizations like NGOs in Indonesia started to introduce ways how government can improve their food estate program. One of the agencies, actually, the Coalition for Food System, secretariat hosted by WRI Indonesia, we started to support current elected president to provide the concept of food estate to the right hand, providing informations that can make them implement this food system in balance between economic incentive and environmental preservation.
And thank you all so much for today, for joining us. Anyone? Yep.
Can I contribute to these questions? Because I think it's such an interesting question. So yes, of course, government, but not only the government, the private sector as well. Okay, so both the government and private sector. So with the government, I think this is critical. Till Collective will work with our partners in Thailand in trying to establish what we would look like to call a constructive dialogue. And important, but it's important for us to showcase the benefit of doing such policies. It's not only like Thailand, we only contribute to the mitigation of the world, but how it's going to be economically beneficial for Thailand. For example, well, we used to see ourselves as the Detroit of Asia. Now the EV sector is going somewhere else. And we lost that opportunities. Right. We called ourselves for a long time kitchen of the world. But what if we are not adapting, that might be gone as well. So something that we need to keep in mind is not to be able to answer past question, but question for the future. What type of demand, what type of food structures is needed? For example, the European Union, within less than a decade, agriculture sectors will be #1 greenhouse gas emitter. Not energy, because they are decarbonizing. But agriculture is there. And you can start to see that government, like for Denmark and many government, already applying taxation measure in order to deal with that. Well, it's not difficult to imagine that what they are doing to their farmers, they mean they're going to apply to imported food into the European Union as well. So that means if we think ahead, the government need to be prepared in order to have like smart food, that doesn't have that much, carbon footprint to be able to continue and be part of kitchen of the world and be part of the kitchen of the future as well. Well, I forgot to mention at the beginning the slide I borrowed from an organization called Mate Brava, who is the key partners and I used to work with. And by the end of next month, and this is a trailer, the report will be out to show the economic gains, even increase in how much new employment in terms of diversifying the protein source in Thailand, land sparing, and also greenhouse gas emission. This will be crucial. And lastly, in terms of health as well, because Thailand is at the speed of light, going into like what we call the aging society or even ultra-aging society. So we are what we eat. So it depends on how we want to be prepared for that. And as I mentioned, we have the figures globally. We want to produce that figure for Thailand as well, to establish the dialogue meaningfully with the government, because at the moment, the dietary guideline of Thailand is really far above what the Eat Lancet dietary guideline is. So that means there are room for improvement, and that will be beneficial for the health and the economy of the countries, hopefully. And as I mentioned, private sectors will be the one driving the engine, and we cannot forget about that. Yeah.
Okay, great conclusion. Thank you so much.
We almost running out of
more.
time, but definitely
One
we
more
want to hear
question.
from the youth, the representative of Global Biodiversity Youth Network as well.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Wasita Bunnuan as a youth representative from JOABN. After listening to all you guys, it has triggered me that they have a lot of number, around 15 million. What will be the numbers next in my generation, right? And after listening to the situation in Myanmar, it surprised me that in Myanmar still export the goods like food, rice to another country. After you face with a flood or rainfall, this So this show is reduce access to food to our right in my generation, and it shows how significant to deliver from our young people voice to policy taker to related to real situations. Also the situation in Indonesia, that in Papua, there's consume right in behavior right, but they have more expensive because the situation in climate change. So as youth, that affect to our rights, and I hoped our adult in nowadays takes responsible, is serious to protect our right to have a right to eat in reasonable price, and that's I wish. Also in the situation in Bangladesh, that interesting me that climate smart in agriculture that reduce carbon dioxide, that in the model from USD, Area Support Grill, right, that shows the freedom that now adult you can take decision. That freedom from you to decide to use the good model to do agriculture, not use chemical, which will affect my generation. That's make me feel appreciated, and I hoped our generation will have the good production to use in our life. So now, as I am representative from JOABN, I want to raise the young people voice to support our policy in nowadays. I fully hope that our voice will be important. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add, or? Yes, sure.
I will have a short response to that. Thank you so much. I mean, young people, youth, have a very important role in food security, and it's actually very much relevant with food regionalization. Last year, we organized a program where we established a business incubator for young people, for people aged 15 to 25, to help us with the business, where they address plantations of local food in Papua. So they have to generate a business model. We train them to generate a business model and provide seed funding for them to establish a business in related to local food. So, for instance, if they want to make a local business on sagu, for instance, sagu modeling, business modeling, so we provide that. There is an incubator. We support them for a certain period of time, until up to a year. These young people will create the business and help establish the local food enterprise. So I think that's the role, how important we see the role of young people in food security.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining us today. And next we will have a wrapped up from Dr. Rajkumari Sunita Devi. But before that, can I welcome Dr. Sunita for that? Okay.
And thank you to all the panelists for this section. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. you mentioned briefly about how this project come about?
ขอบคุณค่ะ Thank you
So thank you very much for all the panelists. I think the food security sector really link it up well from the morning. We're talking about the water security, how the water related to climate, and how even more so with the food system, which is relevant to all of us.
Really fruitful discussion and also highlighting on an alarming speed of climate change in our region as well.
So I think in the last final session, we'd like to Sunita to give the background a little bit how this project come about, and also I will add in terms of what are the next steps as well.
First, thank you, Pat. It was a wonderful one day, very proactive and very productive, interactive session with all the dignitaries and eminent person of Thailand. Thank you, Thailand. Thank you, Thai PBS. So coming to our Hubert Collaborative Alumni Grant Project for South and Southeast Asia, there's a team of 4 people from India, myself, Dr. Raskumari Sunita, I as a team leader, but leader in the, not the bad sense, okay? So we have Dr. Pat Manopavit from Thailand, team member. We have Dr. Ohnmar Khaing from Myanmar, team member. Dr. Khurshid Alam from Bangladesh, the team member. So Alam is an agriculture specialist. Ohnmar is a food security worker before, but now working for Asian Biodiversity. Pat is everything. He is with the water and now again with the with the Fulbright, and I also work for the watershed management in India. But we applied for the Humphrey CAP, we call it the CAP Award, but Humphrey Collaborative Alumni Project Grant is for the first time by the International Institute of Education, Washington, D.C. So we all came together, then we applied it, and this is, I think, we are also one of the luckiest most to get the funding, funding of $15,000. So we came very spontaneously, 4 of us came together. We took the topic of water and food security to promote climate smart technology in South and Southeast Asia. So all this team together, we had an objective to form a common platform of like-minded people coming together with an objective that any smart technology in Thailand or India or Myanmar or Bangladesh can be replicated in other regions of Southeast Asia. And we also have a website, capssa.org, wherein we will be documenting everything. We will have, snippets from the 2 workshops. We had recently from 2 to 3rd September in India, in my place in Manipur, where we had extensive, discussion on watershed management, then Thailand's NBS, the nature-based solution. So it was really a very, mind-blowing discussion. And back home, we also gathered a lot of publicity for the workshop. But now we have another accomplishment to do, we will have the proceeding. We will be giving those reports to the IIE in Washington, and we will have a vibrant website. But we also, calling people to join the team, to like-minded people. We have a young activist or young professional developing here. So we would like that we have all our contact numbers, and we would like to, mentor any new people and join the board. And so that's, it's really, I think tomorrow is the last program we have going around, NBS for Thailand. So this is the project, there's $15,000 from the IIE Washington, and 4 countries coming together. And we have Tomi, who was also a former Hubert Humphrey Fellow from Indonesia. So this is really, amazing that the same batch of people, 2008-9 Humphrey Fellow coming together, Dr. Pat, myself, and Ohnmar, we were in the Cornell in 2008-9. Dr. Alam was in UC Davis in California, and Tomi was in Maryland. Then he was a journalist, now turned into a water. So it is really, it's a really amazing two workshop, and how we do it is another story. Like just in 2 months. So Pat can also, supplement.
Yes. I think one of the key things that been highlighted here, right? So we are all a big player in terms of the footprint that we produce, and we are also the most vulnerable as well. So Myanmar ranked number 2, Bangladesh number 7, Thailand number 9. So we are all like one of the most vulnerable. So we are, I think, better prepared, and it's just the journey continue from what we heard since the morning about the Fulbright exchange, and I think all this learning is for a reason. We're trying to come together to address the most pressing challenges of our time. So I hope this will start the dialogue about the solution. And we really appreciate the support from the Fulbright program and the partnership with Thai PBS, which is really highlighting the role of media in terms of spreading and also creating this fruitful dialogue as well to creating the solution. We probably can't have the solution in one day, but I think we have a lot of food for thought today. And I think going forward, regional cooperation, I think, is one of the most important things that we can have to trying to solve this problem together. So thank you all the partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
Yes.
everyone can take part in tackle climate problem. And thank you so much for today for joining us on online and on site. Me, Natasha Gitmok, Dr. Pet, and Kun Sunita and Kun Sunita. Thank you so much. Till we see you again. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I think so now after this we will have some time to discuss, and also we will have the privilege for the Thai PBS tour as well for our guests from overseas.